The clone troopers were bred and trained for one purpose: to serve the Republic in its time of greatest need. Created from the genetic blueprint of Jango Fett, a Mandalorian bounty hunter of unparalleled skill, the clones were born and bred on the distant world of Kamino, under conditions that cultivated loyalty, discipline, and efficiency. Their lives were dedicated to combat, forged in an environment where camaraderie was encouraged, but obedience to orders was paramount. From their earliest memories, clone troopers knew only the structured and highly regimented life of Kamino's sterile, storm-washed facilities. Kamino's scientists utilized accelerated growth techniques to quickly create an army of soldiers. Clone troopers were mentally conditioned for duty. They understood their role in the galaxy long before they even set foot on a battlefield. Each soldier was taught to follow orders without hesitation, embodying the absolute loyalty expected of them by the Galactic Republic. Training was grueling, with simulations designed to mimic the harshest of battlefield conditions, from close-quarters engagements to large-scale skirmishes. They trained not only in standard blaster use but were adept in piloting various Republic vehicles and using a variety of heavy and specialized weaponry. When the Clone Wars erupted, clone troopers were deployed across the galaxy, transforming into the Republic's backbone in its fight against the Confederacy of Independent Systems. In their white armor, they were a stark contrast to the droids they faced, standing tall and resolute as protectors of the Republic's ideals. But each battle began to forge bonds that even the Kaminoans hadn't entirely anticipated. Clone troopers were not merely identical soldiers, they were individuals, shaped by shared hardships and experiences. Their unique identifiers, whether a painted helmet, a small tattoo, or a nickname, signaled a growing sense of identity among the ranks, which in turn fostered deep loyalty to one another. Their camaraderie extended beyond the battlefield. In the moments between conflicts, clones often gathered to share stories, recounting the battles that had taken place and the friends they'd lost. For many, these stories were how they coped with the unyielding pace of the war. Amidst these tales of camaraderie, they often shared what few personal effects they could gather, souvenirs or minor trophies that brought them small reminders of their missions. While clones were created with a singular purpose, they learned to appreciate the moments of quiet they found during the war. They enjoyed the companionship of brothers, the shared moments that made them feel a sense of family despite their identical genetics. The clones' relationships with their Jedi commanders were complicated but, at times, deeply respectful. Many clone troopers found themselves inspired by the courage, wisdom, and even compassion of their Jedi leaders, who treated them as individuals rather than tools of war. Jedi such as Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Plo Koon earned their soldiers' trust through their bravery and concern for their troops' well-being. Clone commanders often found themselves acting as liaisons between the Jedi and the troopers, translating the Jedi's often abstract objectives into practical strategies that could be executed on the ground. However, the Jedi themselves were uncertain about the clone army. While they respected the clone's skills, there was an underlying tension regarding the ethics of creating a disposable army of individuals bred solely for combat. Nevertheless, the bond between many clones and their Jedi leaders grew strong over time. Jedi would often lead their troopers into battle side by side, exemplifying the Jedi values of courage, resilience, and selflessness. This dynamic was not without cost. Clone troopers witnessed firsthand the casualties and sacrifices made by their Jedi commanders, strengthening the loyalty that had developed through shared hardships. Over time, the clones began to see the Jedi as more than simply superiors. These moments of shared purpose and battle became central to the clone troopers' experience, building a sense of fraternity not only among the troopers themselves, but also with the Jedi they fought alongside. The clone troopers quickly adapted to the chaos of the Clone Wars, learning to navigate the brutal realities of intergalactic conflict. They were renowned for their tactical acumen and ability to improvise, learning to quickly adjust to the ever-evolving tactics of the Separatist droid army. Despite their rigorous training, every deployment was a test of their mettle, a chance to prove that they were worthy of the Republic's trust. The Separatist droids, while endless in number, were often outmatched by the clones' ingenuity and adaptability. The clones also demonstrated a level of dedication that far surpassed their droid adversaries. Where droids could be reprogrammed or replaced, each clone trooper knew that they were singular on the battlefield, responsible for their own survival and the protection of their brothers. In each engagement, clone troopers executed their orders with precision. They took pride in their efficiency and skill, qualities that set them apart from ordinary soldiers. Despite being thrust into situations of extreme danger, their courage and dedication never faltered. Over time, this discipline became almost a second nature, blending seamlessly with the instinctive understanding they developed of their brothers' movements and actions on the battlefield. As the war continued, the clones adapted further to the unpredictability of interstellar conflict, showcasing their remarkable versatility. Each campaign introduced them to new challenges, testing not only their physical abilities but their strategic minds as well. The Separatists' reliance on droids, while advantageous in sheer numbers, had a significant weakness: a lack of true innovation. Clones exploited this, finding creative ways to disrupt droid ranks and command structures. Their superior intellect and understanding of each unique battlefield allowed them to anticipate and counter many of the Separatists' standard strategies. They found ways to utilize the terrain, exploit weaknesses, and maximize their limited resources, all while working in harmony as a single unit. This adaptability wasn't only a tactical advantage, it was a source of pride. Clones came to view themselves as not only soldiers but as part of a greater mission, one in which their sacrifices and victories would help bring peace to the galaxy. They began to internalize the Republic's values, believing that their actions were directly tied to the Republic's success. This gave them a sense of purpose that went beyond the orders they were given. Each battle wasn't just a strategic objective, but a chance to prove their loyalty and dedication to the Republic they served. Despite their disciplined nature, clones were still individuals, each with personal quirks and preferences. This individuality was particularly evident in specialized squads like the ARC troopers, who often acted with more independence. Their ability to operate outside of standard formations and adapt to complex mission parameters made them invaluable assets on the battlefield. Many ARCs were even trusted with high-risk missions that required not only raw skill but calculated risk-taking. Unlike the standard clones, who operated primarily under strict commands, ARC troopers were given a degree of freedom to make on-the-ground decisions, acting almost as freelance operatives within the structure of the army. Commandos, yet another elite force within the ranks, operated in small squads with specialized training. They were often deployed for covert operations, tasked with assignments that ordinary troopers could not handle. Commandos would infiltrate enemy strongholds, neutralize high-value targets, or conduct sabotage missions that would destabilize the Separatist efforts from within. These commandos were highly trained, possessing skills that surpassed even the most seasoned regular trooper. The bond among commando squads was even stronger than that of the standard clones, as they operated in close-knit teams, relying on one another not just for victory but for survival. One of the unique aspects of clone life was the continual balance between their unwavering loyalty and the complex emotions they began to experience. For many clones, there was a growing awareness of their own mortality. Unlike droids, clones were very aware that each mission could be their last, and while their accelerated growth meant their lifespans were short, they valued each moment in service. Every fallen brother represented more than just a loss to their forces, it was a reminder of the sacrifice that each clone was prepared to make. Many clones developed rituals to honor their lost comrades, personal or shared gestures that helped them cope with the relentless toll of war. Their intense camaraderie and shared sense of purpose grew out of these hardships. Although born and bred for combat, clones came to see each other as family, a bond that was often stronger than the one they held with the Republic they served. Some troopers even went so far as to question the ethics of their own existence, wondering if there was more to their lives than endless war. However, the culture among clones discouraged such thoughts, emphasizing duty and service. But in private moments, these thoughts surfaced. When the war ended, what would become of them? Would they continue to serve the Republic in a different capacity, or would they be discarded, as their sole purpose had been fulfilled? On planets like Coruscant, clones had the rare chance to experience life outside the battlefield, even if only briefly. While stationed there, they could witness the world they fought to protect. Some troopers visited local cantinas, where they saw civilians who viewed them as heroes. While many Republic citizens were grateful for the clones' sacrifices, there were others who saw them merely as instruments of war, no different from the droids they fought against. This perception created a sense of disconnection for the clones, a reminder of how isolated they truly were from civilian life. They were the guardians of the Republic, but they would never be a part of its ordinary, peaceful society. The relationship between clones and civilians was complex and varied. While some civilians sympathized with the clones and respected their sacrifices, others viewed them with indifference or even fear. The clones' appearance identical, in stark armor, and trained solely for combat made them a symbol of the war's cost and the Republic's militarization. They were warriors first and foremost, lacking a civilian identity that would connect them to the galaxy they protected. Some clones resented this, but most accepted it as a necessary part of their duty. The armor, the discipline, and the combat training were all facets of their existence, separating them from the civilians who knew nothing of war. Throughout the war, clone troopers faced increasingly difficult and morally ambiguous situations. As they witnessed more of the galaxy, some began to question the Republic's intentions, especially as the lines between good and evil blurred. Many troopers encountered suffering and corruption, even within the Republic they swore to defend. They saw firsthand the toll that the war took on innocent lives, the scars it left on planets caught in the crossfire. The ethical questions surrounding their purpose became more pronounced as the Clone Wars progressed. Clones were initially trained to see the galaxy in black and white, good versus evil, Republic versus separatists. But in their travels and assignments, they encountered various cultures, ideologies, and people who challenged that binary view. Not every separatist was a villain, and not every Republic official was an altruistic hero. Some clone troopers began to feel a conflict between their orders and their evolving understanding of the galaxy. For a soldier whose life had been built on duty and obedience, grappling with such internal conflicts was difficult. These moral questions weren't openly discussed, as most clones were reluctant to show any hesitation about their mission. But in hushed conversations and stolen moments of rest, some troopers would admit their unease to trusted brothers. It wasn't common, yet in certain units, the question of what they were truly fighting for crept into the discussions. This was especially true for troopers who had worked closely with the Jedi. Jedi commanders, who often embodied compassion and justice, inadvertently exposed clones to ideals that didn't always align with the harsh reality of military duty. For some, it was a painful realization that they might be used as mere tools in a larger game. Despite these doubts, the loyalty that defined clone troopers remained unshakable. They stayed true to each other, to their Jedi generals, and to the Republic, even as the war demanded greater sacrifices with each passing battle. To them, every fallen brother was a testament to the strength of their shared resolve. Their unique experiences forged unbreakable bonds, and for many clones, their brothers were all they had. Over time, some clones developed rituals for honoring their dead, personal ceremonies that weren't part of their formal training. They'd etch marks into their armor, or carry mementos of lost comrades, all small acts of remembrance that acknowledge the humanity beneath the helmet. The most painful blow to the clone troopers' loyalty came with Order 66. Issued by Chancellor Palpatine, Order 66 was a contingency order that labeled the Jedi as traitors to the Republic. Upon receiving this order, clone troopers across the galaxy turned on their Jedi commanders. To many clones, the Jedi were not just leaders but friends and allies. The bonds forged through shared battles, hardships, and mutual respect were erased in an instant, replaced by a ruthlessly programmed directive that left no room for hesitation. Order 66 was embedded within the clones' very minds, a command hidden deep within their genetic code, ensuring total obedience to Palpatine's will. For most clones, Order 66 was an automatic and unavoidable response, a tragic twist in the lives of soldiers who had come to see the Jedi as family. The programming removed any internal struggle, leaving only the compulsion to execute their orders without question. Clone troopers who had fought alongside Jedi, shared meals and stories with them, now turned their blasters on those same allies. The suddenness and violence of Order 66 shattered the deep bonds that had developed between the clones and their Jedi generals. It was a heartbreaking moment, the culmination of a betrayal orchestrated without the clones' knowledge or consent. Yet, in rare cases, a few clones resisted. Some clones had defects or slight irregularities in their genetic makeup, which allowed them to partially or even completely resist the order. For these few troopers, witnessing their brothers turn on the Jedi was a nightmare, an event that fractured their loyalty and sense of purpose. These clones faced a unique agony, torn between their loyalty to the Republic and their allegiance to the Jedi. Some attempted to warn their Jedi commanders, while others were forced to flee, knowing they could never go back to the life they once knew. Their defiance, while rare, was a testament to the individuality and strength of spirit that clones had developed throughout the war. The end of the Clone Wars marked a turning point not only for the galaxy but for the clones themselves. With the Republic transformed into the Galactic Empire, the clones were suddenly adrift in a galaxy that no longer needed them in the same way. Many clones found themselves reassigned to garrison duties, their days of active combat largely behind them. For soldiers who had been trained to fight and die on the front lines, this sudden shift was jarring. They had been bred for war, and without it, many struggled to find purpose. The Empire, under Palpatine's rule, viewed them as outdated relics, a reminder of a conflict that the Emperor was eager to put behind him. Gradually, the clones were phased out, replaced by conscripted soldiers who would become the Empire's new stormtroopers. The transition was a painful one, as the clones watched the Empire discard them, viewing them as obsolete tools rather than valued veterans. Despite their loyalty, their unwavering service, and their sacrifices, the clones became little more than a footnote in the Empire's growing power. For some, this was a bitter realization. They had given everything for the Republic, only to be abandoned by the very government they'd sworn to protect. A few clones, unwilling to accept this fate, sought a new life away from the Empire's grasp. Some went into hiding, hoping to live quietly in the galaxy's remote corners, free from the dictates of an empire that saw them as expendable. Others found purpose by joining resistance movements, taking up arms once more to fight against the oppression they saw taking root. These renegade clones, though small in number, became legends among those who resisted the Empire. Their knowledge of warfare, combined with their unwavering dedication to justice, made them invaluable allies in the fight against tyranny.